Have you ever reached the end of your day and wondered where all your time went? Not in a poetic way, not in a philosophical way, but in a frustrating, almost painful way. You wake up with plans, intentions, even motivation, yet somehow, by nightfall, the most important things remain untouched, and deep inside, there's a quiet voice asking, am I really in control of my life, or am I just reacting to it? This is where the journey of mastering your time begins, not with productivity hacks, not with fancy tools, but with a brutally honest realization. Time is not the problem. The way you manage your attention is. In Master Your Time, Thibaut Meurice presents a simple yet powerful idea. You don't lack time, you lack clarity and focus. And that line hits hard because it shifts the responsibility back to us. It removes excuses. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that distractions, procrastination, and lack of direction are silently stealing our lives, minute by minute. Think about this. If someone gave you 86,400 rupees every single day, but told you that whatever you didn't use would disappear by midnight, would you waste it? Of course not. Yet every day you're given 86,400 seconds, and most of them slip away unnoticed, consumed by scrolling, overthinking, and low-value tasks. So here's the real question. What would your life look like if you treated your time as your most valuable asset? The book begins by dismantling one of the biggest myths we tell ourselves, that we're too busy. In reality, being busy is often just a cover for being unfocused. You might spend hours working, but if those hours aren't aligned with your priorities, you're not moving forward, you're just staying in motion. Meurice emphasizes that clarity is the foundation of time mastery. Without knowing what truly matters, you'll fall into the trap of doing what feels urgent instead of what is important. Emails, notifications, random tasks, they demand your attention, but they rarely deserve it. And the more you respond to them, the more control you lose. Here's a bold statement. If you don't decide how to spend your time, someone else will. And that someone else could be your boss, social media algorithms, or even your own bad habits. Slowly, without realizing it, your life becomes a series of reactions instead of intentional actions. The emotional weight of this realization can be heavy because it forces you to confront wasted potential. Days that turned into weeks, weeks that turned into years, filled with activity but lacking meaningful progress. But instead of feeling defeated, this awareness should ignite something inside you, because once you see the problem clearly, you gain the power to change it. One of the key ideas introduced early in the book is the importance of defining your priorities. Not 10 things, not even 5, just a few core areas that truly matter to you. Because when everything feels important, nothing actually is. Imagine trying to focus on 10 goals at once. Your energy gets scattered, your progress slows down. But when you narrow your focus, something incredible happens. You gain momentum, and momentum is what transforms intention into results. Meurice encourages you to ask yourself a simple but powerful question. What are the few things that, if accomplished, would make today successful? Not perfect, not extraordinary, just successful. This shift in thinking is crucial because most people overload their days with unrealistic expectations, setting themselves up for failure. And when they inevitably fall short, they feel discouraged, unmotivated, and stuck in a cycle of procrastination. But when you focus on fewer, high-impact tasks, you create a sense of achievement, and that feeling fuels consistency. There's also an underlying tension throughout this idea, the battle between what you should do and what you feel like doing. Your brain is wired for comfort, not growth. It seeks instant gratification, avoiding anything that feels difficult or uncertain. That's why distractions are so powerful. They're easy, they're rewarding, and they require no effort. But every time you choose comfort over progress, you're making a silent trade, your future for temporary relief. So the real challenge isn't managing time, it's managing yourself. And this is where discipline enters the picture, not as punishment, but as a form of self-respect. When you follow through on what you said you would do, you build trust with yourself, and that trust becomes the foundation of confidence. Because at the end of the day, mastering your time isn't about squeezing more tasks into your schedule. It's about aligning your actions with your values. It's about making sure that the life you're living reflects the life you actually want. As you move forward, ask yourself this: are you in control of your time, or is your time controlling you? Because the answer to that question might just change everything. Knowing your priorities is not enough. You must protect them. Because here's the truth no one likes to admit. Every day, your focus is under attack. Not in a dramatic, visible way, but in subtle, almost invisible ways. Notifications, messages, endless scrolling, and the constant urge to check just one more thing. And before you know it, the most valuable hours of your day are gone. This introduces a powerful concept. Focus is your superpower in a distracted world, and yet it's the one thing most people give away freely. Think about this for a moment. How often do you sit down to do something important, only to get distracted within minutes? Maybe it's your phone. Maybe it's a random thought. Maybe it's boredom creeping in. Whatever it is, the result is the same. You lose momentum. And momentum, once broken, is incredibly hard to regain. So here's a question you need to ask yourself. What is stealing my focus every single day? And why am I allowing it? The book makes it clear that distractions are not just external. They are internal too. It's not just about your environment. It's about your habits, your mindset, and your tolerance for discomfort. Because deep work, the kind of work that actually moves your life forward, is often hard, slow, and mentally demanding. And your brain resists that. It looks for escape routes, quick dopamine hits, easy wins. That's why you suddenly feel the urge to check your phone right when you're about to start something meaningful. It's not a coincidence, it's conditioning. But here's the bold statement. Every time you give in to distraction, you weaken your ability to focus. And the opposite is also true. Every time you resist it, you strengthen your mental discipline. Maurice emphasizes the importance of creating an environment that supports focus instead of destroying it. This means eliminating unnecessary distractions before they even have a chance to interrupt you. Turning off notifications, setting boundaries, creating dedicated time blocks for deep work. Because willpower alone is not enough. You might think you can just ignore distractions, but the reality is, the more you rely on willpower, the more exhausted you become. And once your mental energy drops, distractions win every single time. So instead of fighting distractions constantly, you remove them strategically. There's an emotional tension here, a quiet struggle between the person you are and the person you want to become. On one side, there's comfort, ease, and instant gratification. On the other side, there's growth, discipline, and long-term success. And every choice you make pushes you toward one side or the other. Another powerful idea from the book is the concept of time blocking, intentionally scheduling your day around your most important tasks. Not just hoping you'll get to them, but deciding in advance when and how you'll work on them. What gets scheduled gets done. When you assign a specific time to a task, it becomes real. It becomes a commitment, and more importantly, it reduces decision fatigue. You no longer waste energy wondering what should I do next. You already know. But here's where most people fail. They underestimate how long things take and overestimate how much they can do in a day. They create unrealistic plans, and when they can't keep up, they feel like they've failed. This leads to frustration, and frustration leads to avoidance. So instead of trying to do everything, Maurice suggests focusing on doing the right things, consistently. Imagine this. Instead of a chaotic day filled with half-finished tasks, you complete just 2 or 3 meaningful things. You end the day feeling accomplished, not exhausted. Over time, those small wins compound into massive progress. That's the real power of focus. But it requires something many people struggle with: saying no. No to distractions. No to unnecessary tasks. No to things that don't align with your priorities. It's not easy, because saying no often feels uncomfortable. It can feel like you're missing out. It can feel like you're letting people down. But in reality, every time you say yes to something unimportant, you're saying no to something that truly matters. Question becomes, what are you willing to sacrifice to take control of your time? Because there is always a trade-off. You can't have deep focus and constant distraction. You can't have meaningful progress and endless procrastination. You can't build the life you want while constantly escaping into comfort. At some point, you have to choose. And that choice, repeated daily, shapes your future. Up to this, the message becomes clear. Mastering your time is not about doing more, it's about doing less, but better. It's about protecting your energy, guarding your focus, and committing fully to what truly matters. Because in the end, it's not the hours you put in, it's what you put into those hours that defines your life. So ask yourself again, honestly this time, are your daily actions reflecting your priorities, or are they just reacting to whatever comes your way? By now, you've realized something powerful. Your time isn't slipping away by accident. It's being consumed by patterns, repeated behaviors, invisible habits that quietly shape your entire life. And here's where the truth becomes even deeper. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Maurice makes it clear that motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Some days you feel driven, unstoppable, and other days, even the simplest task feels overwhelming. If you depend on motivation to manage your time, you'll always be inconsistent. So the real solution isn't to chase motivation, it's to build systems that work even when you don't feel like it. Think about your daily routine. The moment you wake up, you don't debate whether to check your phone. You just do it. That's a habit. It requires no effort, no decision-making. And that's exactly how your productive behaviors should feel. Because the less you rely on willpower, the more consistent you become. Here's a question that might challenge you. What habits are controlling your time right now, and are they helping you or hurting you? Most people underestimate how small habits shape big outcomes. Watching just 10 minutes of videos turns into hours. Delaying one task creates a domino effect that disrupts your entire day. And over time, these small decisions compound into a life that feels out of control. But here's the bold statement. You don't need more time. You need better habits. Maurice introduces the idea of habit stacking, linking new productive behaviors to existing routines. Instead of trying to completely change your life overnight, you make small strategic adjustments. For example, if you already drink tea every morning, you can attach a new habit to it, like planning your top 3 priorities for the day. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but that's the point. Because complexity leads to inconsistency. The easier a habit is, the more likely you are to stick with it. There's also an emotional struggle here, the tension between who you are today and who you want to become. You might want to be disciplined, focused, and productive, but your current habits are pulling you in the opposite direction. And breaking those habits isn't easy. Because habits are comfortable, familiar. Even when they're harmful, they feel safe. Changing them requires effort, awareness, and patience. But every time you choose a better habit, you're casting a vote for your future self. And over time, those votes add up. Another key idea from the book is reducing friction for good habits and increasing friction for bad ones. In simple terms, you make it easier to do what's right and harder to do what's wrong. If you want to focus more, put your phone in another room. If you want to start working earlier, prepare your workspace the night before. If you want to stop wasting time online, log out of distracting apps. These small changes might seem insignificant, but they have a powerful effect on your behavior. Because your environment shapes your actions more than your intentions. You might intend to be productive, but if your environment is filled with distractions, you'll struggle. On the other hand, if your environment supports focus, discipline becomes easier. There's also a deeper layer to this, the way you see yourself, because your identity influences your actions. If you see yourself as someone who procrastinates, you'll continue to procrastinate. If you see yourself as someone who is disciplined and focused, your actions will begin to align with that identity. So instead of saying, "I'm trying to manage my time better," you start saying, "I am someone who values and protects my time." That shift is powerful. It changes your behavior from forced effort to natural alignment. Marisa also highlights the importance of consistency over intensity. You don't need to have perfect days. You don't need to work at maximum capacity all the time. What matters is showing up, again and again. Even when you don't feel like it. Even when progress feels slow. Even when no one is watching. Because consistency builds momentum, and momentum makes everything easier. Imagine this. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, you take small actions every day. You build habits that support your goals. You create systems that guide your behavior. Over time, your life starts to change. Not dramatically, not overnight, but steadily. And that steady progress is what creates lasting transformation. But here's the tension. This path requires patience, and patience is something most people struggle with. We want results fast. We want change now, but real growth doesn't work that way. So the question is, are you willing to stay consistent, even when results are not immediate? That's where most people give up. They start strong, full of energy and excitement. But when progress slows down, they lose motivation. They fall back into old habits, and the cycle repeats. But if you can push through that phase, if you can stay consistent despite the lack of instant results, you gain something far more valuable than quick success. You gain control. Control over your actions, control over your time, control over your life. And once you have that, everything changes. So as you reflect on this section, ask yourself honestly, are your habits designed for the life you want, or are they keeping you stuck in the life you have? As you move deeper into mastering your time, something unexpected begins to happen. You stop feeling chased by the clock, and instead, you feel like you're finally in control of your life. This is where most people misunderstand time management. They think it's about squeezing more tasks into a day, becoming more efficient machines. But the truth is far more powerful. It's about becoming intentional. It's about deciding what truly deserves your time and having the courage to eliminate everything else. Think about this for a moment. How much of your day is spent reacting instead of creating? Notifications, messages, random distractions. They pull you in different directions, leaving you mentally exhausted but strangely unfulfilled. The real cost of poor time management isn't just lost hours, it's a lost sense of purpose. And here's the bold statement. If you don't control your time, someone else will. Your job, social media, Even other people's priorities will quietly take over your life. So what's the solution? It starts with clarity. You need to know exactly what matters most to you. Not what society tells you, not what others expect, but what genuinely aligns with your goals and values. Once you identify those priorities, everything else becomes easier to filter. You stop saying yes to everything, you stop overcommitting, and most importantly, you stop feeling guilty for protecting your time. But clarity alone isn't enough. You need systems. Because willpower fades, motivation fluctuates. But systems keep you consistent. Imagine waking up every day already knowing what your top priorities are. No confusion, no wasted time deciding what to do next. This is where planning becomes your greatest ally. Not complicated planning, not overwhelming schedules, just simple, focused direction. Another powerful shift happens when you learn to embrace constraints. It may sound strange, but limiting your time for a task often makes you more productive. When you give yourself unlimited time, you procrastinate, you overthink. But when time is limited, your mind sharpens. You focus, you act. This is how high performers operate. They don't rely on endless hours. They rely on intentional effort. And then there's the emotional side of time management, the part most people ignore. Your energy, your mental state, your habits, they all influence how you use your time. You can have the perfect schedule, but if you're constantly tired or distracted, it won't work. That's why taking care of yourself isn't optional. It's essential. Sleep, focus, and mental clarity are not luxuries. They are the foundation of effective time management. Let's ask a powerful question. What kind of life are you building with the way you spend your time today? Because every day, every hour, every decision, it all adds up. Time is not just passing, it's shaping your future. And whether you realize it or not, you are always making a choice. The final truth is simple yet profound. Mastering your time is not about perfection. You will have days where things don't go as planned. You will face distractions. You will feel overwhelmed at times. But what matters is consistency, the willingness to come back, to refocus, to realign with what truly matters. As you continue this journey, something powerful begins to unfold. You start living with intention. You stop drifting. You become deliberate with your actions, your goals, and your life. Because in the end, mastering your time is not just about getting more done. It's about becoming the person who knows what truly matters.